Hello, my name is Jaya Listen. Today we are going to talk about 5 famous ancient Egyptians: Narmer-Menes, Imhotep, Amenhotep, Ramses the Great, and King Tut. Narmer ruled as the king of Egypt during the period in ancient Egyptian history known as the Early Dynastic period, and was believed by many to be king and founder of the first dynasty of the kings of Egypt. Prior to the first dynasty, Egypt was divided into 2 lands: Lower Egypt, which was the Nile Delta region of the north, and Upper Egypt, which was the Nile Valley region of the south. The Normans palette, as shown on the screen, depicts the unification of Egypt and how King Narmer vanquished his enemies. On the front of the artifact, the king is shown wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt, and in the front he wears the red crown of Lower Egypt, clearly indicating the unification of Lower Egypt. Imhotep was the greatest Egyptian, many say a genius, a brilliant man whose expertise significant number of different subjects including architecture, astrology, medicine, and engineering. He was born a commoner in ancient Egypt, but rose to become chief architect to the Egyptian pharaoh Djoser. He lived and died as a mortal man during the period of history known as the Old Kingdom, but his legacy and reputation lived on after his death, and hundreds of years later, in the period known as the New Kingdom, he was celebrated as the patron of scribes, personifying wisdom and education. He received his final award in the late period when he was deified as the god of medicine and healing. Amenhotep, the son Amenhotep, the son of Ahmose and the queen Ahmose Nefertiri, 18th. Amenhotep, the son of Ahmose and queen Ahmose Nefertiri, he was the second king of the 18th dynasty. Facing a Libyan uprising his first year as king, Amenhotep successfully overcame the Libyans on 2 occasions and prevented an invasion on the Delta area. Next in line for battle were the Nubians. Upon his victory, Amenhotep brought captives back to Thebes. Amenhotep was given the rare honor of being declared a god, entitled only upon his death by the priest. His accomplishments include elaborate building complexes at the Karnak temple in Thebes. He utilizes different types of stones including alabaster. He repaired and restored many ancient temples along the Nile. He was the first pharaoh to build his tomb separate from the temple. Because of the looting tombs, he had a conspicuous place in Thebes. Amenhotep's son died in infancy. His military commander, Thutmose, who was married to the king's sister, assumed the throne upon Amenhotep's death. Ramses the Great. Ramses II, or Ramses the Great, was the 3rd king of the 19th dynasty of ancient Egypt. His reign was the 2nd longest in Egyptian history. His reign was the second longest in Egyptian history. During his reign as Pharaoh, Ramses II led the Egyptian army against several enemies including the Hittites, Syrians, Libyans, and Nubians. He expanded the Egyptian empires and secured its borders against attackers. Perhaps the most famous battle during Ramses' rule was the Battle of Kadesh. This battle is the oldest recorded battle in history. In the battle, Ramses fought the Hittites near the city of Kadesh. Ramses II is also known as the Great Builder. He rebuilt many of the existing temples in Egypt and built many new structures of his own. Some of his most famous achievements are Ramesseum, Abu Simbel, and Pi-Ramesses. Tutankhamun. King Tutankhamun ruled Egypt as pharaoh for 10 years until his death at 19. Although his rule was notable for reversing the two tumultuous religious reforms of his father Pharaoh Akhenaten, King Tut's legacy was largely negated by his successors. He was barely known to the modern world until 1922, when British archaeologist Howard Carter chiseled through the doorway and entered the boy pharaoh's tomb, which had remained sealed for more than 3,200 years. The tomb's vast hoard of artifacts and treasures intended to accompany the king into the afterlife, revealed an incredible amount of royal life in ancient Egypt, and quickly made King Tut the world's most famous pharaoh.